On the morning of July 7, 1947, a local rancher found strange debris scattered across his farm about 30 miles north of the town of Roswell, New Mexico. Major Jesse Marcel of the United States Army came later that day to investigate. The Army released a statement the following day stating that they had recovered a flying disc from the ranch. Shortly after the first, a new press release was issued days later saying what was actually found was merely a weather balloon. This was the official story until 1978, when the true conspiracy of the Roswell incident was uncovered.
Found a piece of metal about a foot and a half to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long. Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes. But the thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't bend it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off of it. So I knew that I had never seen anything like that before. And as of now, I don't know what it was. It was not anything from this earth that I'm quite sure of. Because being an intelligence officer, I was familiar with just about all materials used in aircraft and in our air travel. This is nothing like that. It could not be. It could not have been.
While initially Roswell was dismissed as merely a weather balloon that crashed to Earth, 3 decades later, new interviews and a book published called The Roswell Incident by Charles Berlitz brought Roswell back into the modern view. These new interviews claim that little bodies had been discovered at the scene of the crash and transported to the nearby Groom Lake Air Force Base, also known as Area 51. These interviews also attested that a recovered spaceship was transported to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
All the information I have from all my sources says it was shipped here, and the people who actually worked at Wright-Patterson, who actually wore a uniform here, said it was here. Wreckage, entire pieces of the craft and whole sections of the craft, bodies were brought in. In fact, bodies were brought in on a regular basis.
I was a duty officer that night, and I went to the veterinarian section, and one of a sergeant I knew very well was sergeant of the guard that night. I told him, Sarge, how's everything around here? And he said, fine, sir. I told him, they told me to be careful to watch this area because you have a sense of something sensitive here. He said, you want to see it, sir? I told him, yeah, let's go look. I went back, and there was 5 crates there, like 5 or 6, I think it was 5. I lifted one up, and here's this body there and floating in fluid. And I looked at it about 10, 15 seconds, not much more than that. So we went out, and I told him, where did it come from, Sarge? He said, well, 5 trucks are coming through here from an airfield in New Mexico, and they're heading for Wright-Patterson Air Force. First, I thought it was a child, because it was small. Then I looked at this head and all. The head was different, the arms were spindly, the body it was gray. So right at that moment, I figured, I don't know what this thing is.
With the rise of extraterrestrials in movies and popular culture, the story of the real-life alien crash quickly caught on throughout the nation, prompting the government to release a full report on details of Roswell. The findings, entitled the Roswell Report, Fact or Fiction in the New Mexico Desert, was over 1,000 pages of documents relating to the events that occurred on that warm July night. The government admitted to a conspiracy, but not one of aliens. Rather, what crashed in the New Mexico desert, according to the government, was actually part of a top-secret program entitled Project Mogul, which used strings of 6 to 10 large weather balloons carrying seismic detecting devices to try and see nuclear activity that may have been happening across the world in Soviet Russia. As for the bodies, you may ask, the government had an explanation for that too. In the mid-50s, the government launched realistic dummies out of the back of airplanes to test eject systems in fighter jets. The government claims that people have confused these two events and merged them into one over time. Around the same time the government released their report, They also held a press conference at the Pentagon about Roswell. Colonel John Haynes from the United States Air Force fielded questions, some serious and some jokingly, from the press. He was asked how people could possibly combine the ejection tests and seeing alien bodies, especially when the bodies were claimed to be smaller in height and shape than an average-sized man.
Colonel, how do you square the UFO enthusiasts saying that they're talking about 1947, well, you're talking about dummies used in the 50s, almost a decade later?
Well, I'm afraid that's the problem that we have with time compression. I don't know what they saw in 47, but I'm quite sure it probably was Project Mogul. But I think if you find that people talk about things over a period of time, they begin to lose exactly when the date was.
Throughout the entire press conference, Colonel Hayes appeared visibly uncomfortable and dismissive of some valid questions the reporters had. He constantly told reporters to come to their own conclusions and didn't have some answers for some very basic questions.
That people are going to say, but this is 10 years. How could they possibly make a mistake on the 10 years? And number two, you said it was never classified, and yet why didn't people at the time say, well, my goodness, we were having dummy tests, this explains the answer?
Well, the dummy test, actually, you need to get the book. Actually, you need to look in there. If you look in there, you'll find there are a couple of things in which the dummy tests get lots of media attention. I have it tabbed, and I should be able to find it, but quite frankly, I'm sitting here and my knees are shaking.
26, sir. But
20, page 26.
Yes, explain those two things.
Okay, there's your pictures for that. But let me tell you that I don't know why they can't associate that time period. I'm sorry, I just don't have any information for that. All I know is what the Air Force did, and that if you overlay much of their claims and you look at the Air Force scientific research, you can see it's obvious that what we're talking about at Roswell, and I don't mean Roswell in 47 because that was Project Mogul. That was unmanned. I want to make that very clear. And that's the first report. But over that period of time, dummies were dropped all around there. And I think it's logical to assume that the people there saw Air Force ambulances come out, they saw gurneys come out, they saw body bags come out because the dummies were put into body bags to protect them. They saw people in pith helmets. They saw people in shorts out there brushing the bushes looking for the remnants of the balloons. And when you put all that stuff together and spin it, you find that it fits perfectly with many of the occurrences in Roswell during that era.
They also said that these figures were much smaller stature than full-size adult figures. How do you reconcile that?
I don't reconcile that. I just have no idea why they say that.
You keep saying, using the word probably, and you say case closed. Those two don't jive.
Yeah,
How do you reconcile that?
Okay, let me say, from the Air Force perspective, that's exactly what it was.
So does the Air Force...
And I don't mean to be rude about that. I want you to understand we are very, very proud of this report. We think in our office that this answers lots of questions, and it answers them logically and with integrity. And one other thing I might add is if you want to do your own research, in the back is a complete technical report bibliography, and also there is a terrific set of endnotes. And I recommend that if you're interested in this, that you take these and you do your own research and come to your own conclusions.
While some of the footage they played during the press conference did appear as though it could be mistaken for a flying saucer, this was not the same equipment that would have been used for Project Mongol at the time of the incident. Both sides of the story have their problems. The only evidence available in the support of aliens landing in Roswell is eyewitness testimony from a select number of government officials and witnesses. While compelling to listen to, most of the testimony given can never be 100% confirmed. However, problems with the government timeline and the fact they were willing to cover up the original story makes it hard to believe them 100% either. In the end, it is unclear what happened in the New Mexico desert in July of 1947, and perhaps it will be forever. Unless aliens come crashing to Earth and admit guilt, or the conspiracy theories are 100% proven wrong, the Roswell incident will go down in infamy as a great, unsolved conspiracy.